by rule. And so we'll start with the first call for any nominations for chair.
I'd like to nominate Kent Harfman for board.
Okay, thank you, Angie. So we have one nomination for board chair. I will call a second time. Do we have any other nominations for board chair? And I will ask a third time, any other nominations for board chair? Hearing none, we will close the nominations, and with there only being one individual nominated for board chair, we do not have to take a vote on that. So we seat the new board chair. Thank you, everybody, for the trust in the board this year. So
And I'd just like to, maybe on behalf of myself, thank you for your leadership. I know that you spend a tremendous amount of time working on behalf of this board, on behalf of the school district, on behalf of our students, staff, and community. And I think oftentimes it goes unnoticed, the preparation and due diligence and research that you do. And so I just wanted to publicly comment and thank you for your leadership.
okay, with that, we move on to clerk. I will call for nominations for clerk. Do we have any nominations for clerk?
I'll nominate Angie Richards for clerk.
Thank you, Brandon. We have one nomination for clerk. With that, we will ask a second time for any nominations for clerk. I will ask a third time, any nominations for clerk? With that, we will close the nominations for clerk, and as there's only one name for clerk, Angie Richards, thanks for being willing to serve as a clerk this year. Appreciate that. With that, we will move on to treasurer and accept nominations for treasurer. We now open the nomination for treasurer. I will make that nomination for Patrick for treasurer. With that, we'll take a second call for any nominations for treasurer. And I'll ask one more time for any nominations for treasurer. Hearing no other nominations for treasurer, I will close the nomination for treasurer. And as Patrick is the only candidate for treasurer, I thank you, Patrick, for being willing to serve. Appreciate that. So with that, we have officially completed our organizational items as far as elected officers for the board go. So we will move on to number 4, consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which contains just the December 18th minutes from our regular meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Angie. In a second.
A second.
Thank you, Brandon. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the consent agenda, state aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. And we're on to discussion items. And the first one is review of the board committee assignments. So each year we look at those assignments and we take those. It should have those, I think, in front of you. Oh, on the screen, sorry. If there is a committee that you have interest in getting involved with, please let me know, and I will take that into account. The one thing that I probably will think strongly about is the finance committee and not making changes there due to the fact that we're in the middle of negotiations. So thank you for understanding that. But the remaining, I think, committees, if there's something that people would have an interest in serving as.
I do ask if it can be considered, I know for Zed, what some of the other districts are doing is they're having their Zed rep, but then they're also having an alternate. That way, just, there's so much that happens, especially with like the joint powers agreement, where if the original person can't be there, it's nice to have somebody there who has all of the history and background. So that's just a request that I have when assigning committees.
Very good.
Do they have their alternates also, or just one?
The way I understand it, and I know how Hayfield would do it, is that they meet separately, and so that they can be up to date as to what's going on.
I do have a question too about Patrick's our treasurer. Should he be included in finance, maybe outside of negotiations or added as a member into finance?
Well, it can't be added in because that would be a quorum of the.
Kent, that was actually a position I was in at one point. I was served as treasurer, I believe, and was not included in the finance committee. And so, yeah, it seemed like it worked. It was just more, communication, and I think that is good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other thoughts on committee assignments or any questions anybody has? We'll look to approve those at our next meeting here in January.
Kent, would you like me to attend the ZED meeting as it's before our meeting in January?
That would be great if you would be willing to do that, Amy. I'm hoping that you're at least interested to be in some way involved in that going forward.
100%.
Thank you. Other thoughts anybody has on committee assignments? Okay, then with that, we'll move on to 5.1.3, the governance video. I think Carlin's going to bring that up for us, in case you haven't had a chance to watch it.
In our school district, voters elect school board members to represent the interests of all the citizens and of all the students. The school board supervises and evaluates one employee, the superintendent. Working in consultation with the school board, the superintendent is the chief administrator who oversees all operations of the school district. So what does the school board do? Like in many school districts around the nation, our school board has adopted policy governance as its model of operation. This means the school board approves policies that provide general principles for guiding the management of the school district. The superintendent and the administration develop regulations that specifically support the school board's policies and make recommendations for the board's consideration. Policy governance school boards will exchange ideas and debate issues. However, after a vote is taken, all members have a responsibility to speak with a single voice, regardless of their individual views. This unified position gives sound and clear direction to those in management and to staff who will implement the decision. Parents and staff will often pressure the board to engage in management to affect the things they are passionate about. But policy governance school boards define what they are providing, to whom, why, and at what cost, but not how. That's up to the superintendent and administration. It's the board's role to interpret the needs of the community, and members often receive feedback and suggestions on all sides of issues. But when school boards like ours consider all public viewpoints and practice policy governance, they are fulfilling their key purpose: to serve as a united, though not always unanimous, governing body.
Dr. Thompson, I apologize because I know you had brought that up and requested that video, and I didn't give you a chance to speak on that before.
Okay.
But
Thank you, but actually Angie is the one that brought it to my attention. And basically I thought, well, it'd be a good little reminder for everybody. And Angie's the one that gets credit for it, not me, because she's the one that brought it to my attention. I just thought it'd be a great time. Now's the time to use something like that, just a reminder of all the responsibilities that you have.
thank you, and I apologize, I was not aware of that. So Angie, thank you. I don't know if you have thoughts you'd like to share though.
No, I just happened to see it. It was something that Austin Public Schools did locally. And I just thought at the beginning of the year, it's just a good reminder as we've been working through things with MSBA and where we are as a district, just to reset at the beginning of the school year. I thought it was well done. So kudos to Austin Public Schools for that video.
Very good. Yeah, I think it is a good reminder, so thank you for that. With that, we'll moving to 5.1.4, discuss MSBA's best practice on cell phones. Dr. Thompson, and I'll let you speak on this, but had a conversation with MSBA around this. Gotten to know MSBA a little bit in the last few months. But Dr. Thompson reached out, or they reached out to him, and just a conversation on best practices here, so I'll let him share.
I shared with you what Barb Dorn had sent to us, and some of the best practices that MSBA, with the cell phone. Basically, the contention is that, it's best practice not to have them at the board table, that we could have it in your purses or whatever it is, because just in case there's some emergency kind of situations. But yeah, that was her recommendation. She noticed it as well as one of our first meetings that we've had. And so that was so I thought, well, I'll bring it up at the, this meeting so we can talk about it openly and see what people think. But there was another concern that I had in the email that I sent out to regarding data practices and data public requests. So that would be a concern as well for you as board members in your personal cell phones. So that's why I'm bringing that up. And I did do a little voice survey with the HBL superintendents, and they indicated that none of them either allowed cell phones at their board tables. So I just wanted to have a little backing from MSBA as well as what's happening around the area. So that's where I'm coming from. It'd be my recommendation not to have them, but you guys are the voting members. You will vote on that and determine what will happen. But just thought it'd be good time to have a discussion on it as at the organizational meeting.
And I'll just say, I think as a practice, I wasn't personally thinking that we'd have something we vote on, but I think as a practice, I think it's something that would be good for us as a board. I've tried to, I'm not always perfect, but I try and put it in my bag because it does go off at times and keep it out of sight. So open to any other conversation or thoughts on that.
Yeah, I've consistently used a cell phone as my personal computer, for many years and stuff. But I'd be more than willing to switch courses and get a computer as well. So, yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty and stuff as far as communication, and there never needs or should there be communication and stuff when you're sitting at a board table, whether it's through a phone or through a watch or anything like that. Like, absolutely prohibited. So, but yeah, I think it's good.
And Brandon, I mean, we can make laptops available for everybody if they're, we know we have them. Okay. So if you'd like to go that way.
Does this affect us using personal laptops then? Or are you saying just in?
No, I mean, and that's up to the board to decide. Like I use right here, I've got my personal laptop here that I use for the board.
Most of us do.
So
So this is just for cell phones.
I think she was thinking just cell phone. I don't know,
Yes.
Dr. Thompson.
That's my understanding as well, so it was.
Okay, so if you would like a laptop, please reach out to Carlin. Or if you'd like one here ready for you when you come, I think we can do that. Is that right? Okay. So any other discussion on that? Okay, then we'll move on to 5.1.5, discuss public input best practices. Dr. Thompson, I'll turn it over to you.
Basically, that'd be one thing that I wanted to bring up. I believe it'd be in the best interest of the board and the community if we had a time, let's say if we had a board meeting tonight, we had it at 6, at 5 o'clock, that we have community comment, and have community comment go for 45 minutes from 5 o'clock to 5:45 minutes, 15 minutes to get ready for this board meeting. With this thought process, there would only be at the most 3 people. And then that worked out pretty good. I don't like to say this is what you do in Stewartville, but this is what we did in Stewartville. So it worked out very well. And the fact is, we normally had 3 people that were assigned to the night, and invariably one of them would have a conflict or something, and then we always had 2 people there. The superintendent is not there because I didn't want to intimidate anybody or anything else, so it's open to the public. The public would come in and share their thoughts with you, and then we come back in the board meeting and do just like we do with the committee reports, and report back just like we do. The situation then is that you listen during the community comment, but then in the board meeting, then you can respond. So if there's any type of questions that possibly had inaccurate information or misinformation, that you can correct it at that time. And I think that's much better for your situation. And the fact that would work better for you, because you're reporting back to the rest of the board members. And those 2 or 3 people that would be on community comment for that evening would report back to the board members in that respect on what they heard or what the topics were and what information was involved with that. So that's my recommendation for you in this situation. But again, it's organizational meeting. This is the time to bring those things up and talk about that, discuss it now, and see if that's the way you want to do it in the future. I think it's fine to do it once a month, kind of a situation. I think that's fine. But I just wanted to bring it up now with the organizational meeting, because this is the time to do something like that. Gonna make a change.
Dr. Thompson, I did see that Byron does something similar to that too, where once a month they have 2 committee members listen to public input and then share with the board the results of that.
Yeah, they've been doing that, I think, since Wendy, Shannon, and I started doing this. She did it at Byron, I did it in Stewartville. So it's worked out pretty well, I think, for both districts.
I really appreciate that, this idea. I think that this is a fantastic way to go about it, and to get the comment and then to be able to kind of have those discussions and respond to it. Would we still have them fill out a public comment card so that we have information if they choose to share it, if they're looking for us to be emailing them something or?
Yes, I think that would be appropriate, because, there could be times when we have lots of, we might have to go to 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, and then they have to be, depending on how many people are actually coming. But for the most part, that'll work out fine. And then we have some record of it. Then we have a record of what their topic was, and we can go from there. And it's easier for, let's say, if you did it, and you were the person there, just bring your sheets back and you can say, okay, this is what happened, and this is my, I'll write a few notes on it, just say, okay, this is my understanding of what the concern was or the issue was. Then we have record of it.
Sounds great.
I also like the idea of being able to respond in the moment and more of a dialogue, because I think that's what a lot of people are looking for, is a response to the concerns they're bringing, or maybe kind of a understanding that we can come to together. So sometimes it feels a little awkward to have just a whole slew of concerns or questions and then not being able to respond or make corrections in the moment.
Is the response in the moment or is the response as part, what is your recommendation?
My recommendation would be the response be part of the, like the community comment report, like we do with the, during the board meeting, during the report situation, just like we do with the finance committee or the safety committee or whatever committee, just that's the time for them to bring up the topics and say these are the concerns.
So it's totally just listening at the board.
But at the board meeting, then you can respond to it. Or respond with more information.
Gotcha. I think I misunderstood that. I thought it would be more of a dialogue if it was before the meeting, for like corrections of misinformation. You're saying we just listen at the beginning and that correction would come during the meeting still?
Correct.
Okay,
During the board meeting.
right.
Because right now, when you have that, then you have no chance to
Right.
give a response.
Right.
This way you have a chance to give a response.
Sure.
And Dr. Thompson, is it different board members at any given month, or did you have somebody that were kind of like, that was one of their subcommittees?
We had it kind of like a committee, but you don't have to do it that way. We would have community comment committee, and those three people would be like on the organization chart. And then, between the three of them, two of them could do it, or, and you could rotate that through if you wanted to.
Well, I think we have committees already set up. We just go right off the list. Finance committee this week, personnel committee that week, and then easier for the chairwoman.
Yeah, I wonder if rotating them might be good. If somebody had a finance concern, they could come when the finance committee would be present for that, or I mean, they wouldn't have to get it like that, but rotating through maybe would be a good way to start this.
Yeah, it's a board's decision. I can certainly do that, and we can just put a rotation together, starting with each of the committees and just rotate through them. Okay. Any other, so we will, that we've not taken action on it, but I think the board, what I heard was that when I set up the committees, also put together a list with Carlin's assistance of the public input sessions in which committee will be each month, which committee will be assigned. Okay. All right. Anything else for public input? All right. Then we'll move on to action items. 6.1.1, set the proposed special and regular school board meeting dates and times for 2024. Have those in front of you. Thank you for putting them together. I'm not sure if Carl and Dr. Thompson, some combination, put these together, but please take a look at them, because sometimes we have meetings and they fall on a day that we can't have the meeting or something like that. Just
Yeah, there's options for some of the months where we could go one way or the other. There's a lot of conflicts. Most importantly, though, is there is not a Monday in January that Dr. Thompson can be present for. I don't know if you want to have a regular board meeting without him. Otherwise, we can start in February, or you can pick a different day of the week for the January board meeting.
The January 22nd board meeting is, you're gonna have the interview training, so that's gonna be a little while. So that's Monday, the 3rd.
Do we know the duration of that meeting?
She said 2 hours.
I was gonna say 2 hours.
And you're unavailable to meet if we were to be there that evening at 7?
Yes, I won't be here. But, I don't know that there's that much more information that the 5th isn't that much later. And you're gonna be busy enough the way as it is during that period of time. It's not like you're gonna have a lot of time anyway. There's gonna be a lot of stuff to do. So the applications, I believe, are due on the 4th. So that's after that, it's gonna be very, very busy.
The only thing that I might bring forward is then we wouldn't set committees until February 5th. And in case we needed to have a committee meeting, or I don't know if we need to officially approve finance committees before finance can meet. I don't know the rules around it, but.
Yeah, that's a fair question. So, I mean, we had discussion earlier tonight even about having a finance meeting, finance subcommittee get together and meeting, and I don't know if those need to be set. I don't know. I can reach out to MSBA tomorrow and find out if those need to be approved before the committee. That would be what my practice would, I would hope. But I can reach out to Barb Dorn tomorrow and make sure that that is the case though. So I will do that. If you're okay with that. Then are any other, I think is there any other committees that we need to have set before we would be on February 5th though?
Continue to go to that, so.
We're good there. Okay,
So we'll change the Feb 5 to a regular school board meeting.
correct.
And then the next regular stays the 20, or switch the 26th to a special, if needed.
Correct. Thank you.
If we have conflicts with any of the dates posted, should I just email Carlin with those? Or?
Maybe it'd be okay to share them here at the table in case somebody else has the same conflict, and then we know to move right away.
Right. If we know we're gonna somewhat struggle to get a forum or quorum, then we'd know now, if you know.
The first one I know I would not be available is the February 26th. Right, if the fifth was regular.
Again, and we set these at the beginning of the year, and we've had times in the past where we've had to change one because people are just unavailable. We just couldn't get a quorum. So.
And in the month of February can be very busy. Okay, with several, 3, 4, 5 different board meetings in the month of February already. So the shortest month is going to have the most meetings for you. So.
I know that I'll be unavailable on March 4th.
I don't believe that I'll be available February 5th, but if I'm the only one, I might be able to Zoom in.
Any other dates or individuals that know they'll be gone on those 2 dates that we have so far? Okay, any other concerns about these dates before we ask for a motion to approve? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the special and regular school board meetings, dates and times for 2024? Thanks, Kate. And the second?
Second.
Thanks, Angie. Any other discussion on those dates? Hearing none, all those in favor of approve of the special and regular school board meeting dates and times for 2024, state aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. And we are on to 6.1.2, designate the official depository. In the past, we've had Home Federal Bank. And so I'd look to Dr. Thompson if there's any concerns with that.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, then I'll take a motion to approve Home Federal Bank as our official depository.
So moved.
Thank you, Patrick. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brandon. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of the official depository being Home Federal Bank, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. We're on to 6.1.3, the official legal counsel. And in the past years, we've had Radwick, Roseanne, and Maloney. Any comments on that, Dr. Thompson?
I think that would be fine to keep the same legal attorney organization. I think they've done a very good job for us.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you for the motion, Brad. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Kate. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of the official legal counsel being Ratliff, Roseanne, and Maloney, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're on to 6.1.4, established board salaries. If you remember last year, we had a salary. I think did we have $1 and we went to, no, we had our salaries and we
We were at $1 last year, we were to 0. The year before that, we had salaries.
Last year we had 0. Last year we had 0, but the year before we had $1.
Yes.
Correct.
Well, yes, yeah.
This
Yeah.
past year is like 0.
And so I did do some digging, and Carlin has it in your packet. She'll pull it up of what a number of boards in Minnesota have for salaries, if you want to take a look at that. Again, and I'll just share my thoughts. I don't think a couple things. First, I don't think anybody really gets on the board or runs for board for the money, but at the same time, there is work and people do have expenses and potentially could have expenses going forward. So not that it's the primary focus, but I think there's justification for having some. And then if people choose to, if we choose to have a salary, people can always make the decision to donate that back if they would choose to. So just my initial thoughts, if people have thoughts on those.
I would like to advocate for having a board salary reinstated higher than obviously 0. I think it's an important part of democracy. Out of the many qualities that make a good board member, I don't think having expendable income has to be one of them. So personally, completely underestimated how much time it would take to be an active school board member, to be a successful school board member, especially in the first couple of years. And that's hard. It can be very hard. Nighttime childcare, taking unpaid time off work because you want to save your PTO for actual vacations with families. And then just the importance of the role we play in the community. I was talking to MSBA earlier and they talked about how there's a lot of emotional weight on a school board. Everything you do, it affects a lot of people. So there's a lot of time and energy as our board. I mean, you all know, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, but you spend making sure that your decisions are sound and well-informed. And so from my point of view, I think it was a nice gesture through COVID to give up salary. But at this point, I think it would be more fair if we were all compensated.
I don't know if anyone was aware of any sort of stipend or salary prior to going out for election for a school board, but I definitely wasn't. And when I first got on, seeing that there was a stipend, I ended up donating a lot, or almost every single year, fully back. But I guess I would not agree to add any additional stipend. I don't think that none of us are on here for any sort of additional compensation. We're all here to do what's, ultimately best for the district and best for staff and students, and not really needing any sort of additional compensation for the work that we do. So.
And I think that's definitely a personal option that is available personally if you'd like to donate it back to the district.
Yeah, I won't be voting for any salary.
Other thoughts?
After really thinking about it, I do feel that it is in the best interest of, democracy, and we are elected officials, and it kind of helps keep things in balance. And so I am in favor of a stipend. I don't know what that looks like, but I would be in favor of it reinstating one.
Thank you. Other thoughts?
Yes, I'm indifferent to the stipend, the individual, if there is a stipend, can donate back to the district, and so that board member won't receive it, but for those that feel it is important, and I recognize that too, and it's a balance. I think it's hard, it's a challenging year fiscally, and I look at some of these stipends and I look at Bloomington and I say, $10,000, how in the world, $10,000 that they pay their board members? Obviously, that's a much larger school district and they have a much higher revenue source per student than we do in our district.
Thank you. Other thoughts? Go ahead.
Well, if one were to be reinstated, what would be the value?
That was my question. When we come to these, like, is this a position of the finance committee to review? You know, I was kind of curious when I had reached out to Bob to look at numbers, but it's all based on local government. So what I've learned in school board is that even when comparing contracts, it's all very different because it's all based on that local community's needs and wants and agreements. So I don't know if that's something a committee review, like, I guess I've never been a part of that.
Honestly, we've never had this much discussion around it before.
If I recall the previous, so a few years ago, I think it was $1,000 per board member and the chair received somewhere $1,300 or something.
That's correct. And $25 per policy, or I'm sorry, committee meeting.
And what that does is that it's $25 per meeting, and we've had this discussion with me being on the Ed board several times, where we've talked about, you know, should we not be doing this? Should we be doing this? And it was very much decided upon that the value of the work that we do is there, and that $25 is pretty nominal, but it still shows that there is value in the work that is being done. And it was up to those individuals if they chose to donate it back. And usually that was done kind of quietly, anonymously.
Thank you. Mr.
Yeah.
Torkelson, any thoughts?
I guess I'm on the side of kind of what Brandon was saying. I look at more, is this position more as a public servant, not a public employee?
I would have to agree. I still think we're public servants, even though we're compensated. Like, at that amount of money, obviously you're not doing it for the money, but maybe Bob could look at like an average in the region of like size districts or something like that to give a recommendation to the board.
Okay. I'm just gonna take a chance here, and I'm gonna make a motion. I might die, but I'm gonna make a motion that we go back to our $1,000 board stipend and the board chair gets a
$500 additional.
about 300.
Oh, okay.
How about back to 300? I'll make that motion. We'll see if I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion around that?
No.
They do that, yeah.
$25.
25. Those,
Yeah, I think we can skip that just for simplicity's sake.
That's great.
Okay.
yeah, and I open up for discussion, but bringing up, I'm sort of indifferent personally, but I'd rather see us compensate board members potentially in the future and not put them in a position where they don't have, where they don't get anything in there. But at 1,000, that's why I picked that. Any other comment there before we vote? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the board, establishing board salaries of $1,000 for the board and an additional stipend of $300 for the board chair, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And the motion passes 4-3, I believe. Okay. Thank you, everybody. And again, I think it said it before, boards don't agree on everything. It's about the discussions.
Just quick question, are you okay with, in the past, we always paid that half in June and half in December, are you still okay with that practice? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we're on to 6.1.5, designate the official newspaper. It is currently Dodge County Independent. I'm not even honestly sure if we have another local we could select, but I think they've covered us for many, many years.
I move to approve Dodge County Independent as our official newspaper.
Thank you, Angie, in a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Patrick. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of the official newspaper as the Dodge County Independent, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. And we're on to approve the resolution retaining to a Series 2023 A bond and relating to $36,775,000 in general obligation school building refunding bond Series 2024A. Mr. Haas, take it away.
Sure, so if you remember last fall, back in September, we had a similar resolution before you to do some refinancing of some of our bonds from 2015. Those are the ones from the middle school. Back then, the amount of savings that we would recognize was going to be just under 400,000. It was like 289,000 was what the amount was that we were saving. By doing this refunding sale, saving approximately a little over $1 million over the next 12 years. You can see what the breakdown is on the savings per year. Again, these dollars would be savings in the debt service fund, not the district's general fund. So,
And we can only change this one time, so if rates would continue to drop, we wouldn't be able to go back in 6 months or
right.
11 months and do this again.
Because typically the bonds are sold for basically a guaranteed time frame of 10 years. So,
Bob, are these numbers, that includes some of the fees and the rating survey or?
The bond rating call would be an addition. They said that would be around $12,000 to $15,000 that we would be incurring. So let's say, for example, that you go through the bond rating call, and then a week before the bond sale occurs, rates take a huge jump toward even realizing the savings. It would be at that point, we would be able to call off the sale, but we would be out the dollars for that bond rating call. And these rates are based off of what they sold recently for other schools. And based it off of what rates they're seeing right now. Realizing that the market is still pretty volatile.
Bob, are you recommending we take action on this tonight rather than wait on the volatility of the market?
That's kind of what their recommendation is, just because things seems and somewhat helter skelter. And I guess it's, the average rate right now that they're quoting this year is 3.2%. So I don't know if we're down much more.
And is this on the 36 million in the agenda or the 32 on the sheet?
They're proposing the 32. Not sure why they have the 36.75.
Any other questions for Bob?
I appreciate you continuing to bring this back to us. You know, it's important for us to look at creative solutions like this, and this is one way. It doesn't affect our general fund, but it still does affect funding that the school district requires. And it looks like it's starting in 2026, we would really start to recognize savings, and then we would recognize savings for another 10 years after that. So I would be in favor, if the recommendation by the experts who do this is that we move forward with it now at this time frame, then I would be in favor of doing so.
Okay, so is that a motion to approve the 32?
It is a motion to approve the number of 32,250 for the school building refunding bonds.
Thank you, Angie. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Kate. Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion. Thank you. There's one nay. The motion passes. And we are on to 6.1.7, vote on the district recording of school board meetings. It's a discussion that's come up a couple times in the past. I did do, Carla, I don't know if you can bring that up. I did do some digging and looked for, so I reached out to Carla and asked what the districts, HVL districts that Superintendent Thompson communicates with, what is their practice with this? And these are the districts, and so then what I did is I started digging around to find out what they provide. And so what you'll find there is Stewartville, let me see if it's around. Stewartville and Triton do live video, and they record it, which means they keep it, and they do it through YouTube. Zumbrota does live audio, and they do not record it. So if you want to listen to the meeting, you sign in and you listen to the meeting. I reached out to them, but they do not record that, and they do that through Zoom meeting. Pine Island records it, but they don't put it out there live. They put it out there a few days later. Okay, but that's stay out there. And then the rest of those, Byron, Cannon Falls, Lake City, Blooming Prairie, Hayfield, Goodhue, and Southland, do not. And again, those schools are the ones that when I asked Carlin, who the HVL superintendent, she said it's superintendent's plus list. So there's a few extra there you can see, but that's who they communicate with. So I wanted to provide that information as we start the conversation here. Open input.
Owatonna also live streams and posts it to their district website using YouTube. I am in favor, obviously, of recordings. I was in favor previously. I think there's multiple reasons. I wrote down a few here. One being that if any board member isn't present, they can watch it later to fill themselves in. I think it's a good way to show the community we support transparency and value having active and informed community members. You know, and with KMEM videotaping through the last year, there's been some videos that have worth over 1,000 views, almost 2,000. It's obvious that community members are utilizing that service. I think it's important for our staff to know what we're doing and not have to leave their homes away from their families. They're already working hard, spending a lot of time. I mean, everyone knows teachers are taking homework, grading things at home, already spending time away from their families. Some of them are coaches. Our families are busy. We want our students to be actively engaged in sports and activities. And this is one way that we show that, yes, we truly do value kids being engaged and kids showing up in these activities. The parents are going to need to get them there, but could have this option to still be an informed community member. And then I also think it's important for hard of hearing deaf community members because you can watch it on YouTube with the captions, so it's inclusive. Also think we need to consider not having a recording during our live streaming of the superintendent interviews. So give us more control over what's recorded, what's not recorded.
Thank you, Kate. And one thing I forgot to mention, I put it at the bottom here, if you want to scroll down, this is what those community or what those districts do for recording. So when they record them, you'll see that Stewartville, Stewartville, this is what Stewartville looks like. So they just have a fixed camera, and that's the feed you get. If you slide down, you'll see what Triton does when they record those. They have mostly the agenda, and then they have a small picture, and then they capture the audio, and then finally Triton or Pine Island does a similar thing to Triton, but again, they don't put it out there. It's not live streamed. They record it and put it up there later. So that's what they look like when they're doing it. And we'd have to make a decision if we decide to do that. We'd have to make a decision about how we would want to move forward with that. So I just wanted to share that.
I am also in favor of recording, as I have been in the past, in live streaming. I agree with everything that Kate brought up. I also think, especially with Dr. Thompson's visit to Prairie Meadows, we have a rather large elderly population, and our meetings can be quite long and usually end in the dark. And I know a lot of them, they're unable to get here. And so I think that it would be more inclusive. And if you look at, once a month when we accept the donations, a lot of those people are the ones who are giving donations. And so I think it would be a really great way to include them in the happenings of the school district. And in the future, if we need to go out for a bond or anything like that, they're going to be more informed and more likely to support what we're asking. So.
Thank you, Amy. Other thoughts?
Thank you, Kent, for putting that together. I like having the options available, even just with the picture small, but you can still hear it and follow along on the agenda.
I think even as we look at this, we should look at the communication solution for all of our district members. I feel that the videotaping of the meetings this year has proved that it doesn't extinguish misinformation. Regardless of the presentations that we have in front of us, it just seems to get twisted at times, or it'll be posted out on a social media platform that our elderly community members don't have, or it doesn't reach them all. Where if we looked at, other, DCI communications, we had quite an advocate when Randy Carlson owned the DCI and would sit and summarize those meetings and post it in the paper. Technologies have changed, I understand that, but looking at all the different generations of people that we need to meet or communicate with, I think it needs to be more diverse than just a video.
And
Live streaming.
I think you bring up a really good point, and I also think that we would also be able to control the narrative somewhat as to how we're presenting it, so that we could ensure that all of the populations were seeing it. I know and can speak for the hockey program as well as volleyball, that it's very well utilized by grandparents and by different family friends that are far away, that are maybe not used to Facebook, but smart TVs come with the link for YouTube, or the KM activities is a highly visible page, and those videos are even gone and looked at many times after the event. And so I think that we could control that narrative and ensure that it's in a way that everybody would have access to it that wants the access to it.
I also wanted to respond. I don't think it would take place of anything we're already doing. I think we would continue to do those things. This would be an addition to. It would just be district responsibility.
I think one thing is that we're talking about this as it's controlling a narrative that isn't up for us to decide. Anyone could still come into this room, record Facebook Live at any point that they want, even if the district is recording, streaming, whatever it might be. So I don't think that it's something that.
I may have misspoke when I used the words, creating that narrative. I believe it would just be making it available for anybody and everybody, and not just, as Patrick had mentioned, certain populations that would utilize one modality versus another, or maybe, for example, if it were the volleyball program and the volleyball program is putting something out, only the people interested in volleyball are going to see that. And so this would be available then for everybody who might be interested, it would be available for them.
I think, too, it's important to point out, I don't think it is whether or not we're voting for the meetings to be recorded. The meetings have been recorded. It's whether or not we're willing to take responsibility to record the meetings at this point.
Other thoughts? Thoughts on if we move forward with this, what would the approach look like? And you have thoughts on that? If we did move forward with this, again, right now, this room isn't always available, and we don't have a standardized camera here. Everybody that I saw had a camera mounted there that nobody needed to maintain, and you didn't have to simply pay somebody to come in and set up and do that. Thoughts on that? What would that look like?
I think our IT department would have great ideas. I personally envision some kind of a student opportunity here. I don't think it takes a huge amount of equipment. Ryan comes to every meeting with this very small camera and just his laptop and works as he records it. So I don't think it's anyone that has to be out of this world techie to make this available. But I also think it'd be a good opportunity. What do we do for games that we stream or other events that we're streaming? Who's in control of that? Who are we paying to stream that?
I don't know that we pay anyone for some of those. I think there's, like, in a lot of cases, parent or community volunteers that do that.
Sure.
There is an iPad provided by the school to do so.
So maybe we could just utilize.
This probably isn't the place to have the conversation, but we are gearing up for the internships, and I think this would be a really good opportunity for students who are interested in going into that field to get some experience under their belt. I know that Cody has an amazing team of students that he has been guiding and leading, and this might be just one more opportunity that might spark someone's interest and potentially set them on a career path.
I will say, I'm torn on this one because I know what happens when we put a camera on, and I know behavior when the camera's not here and when the camera is here, and it become problematic when the camera is here. At the same time, I'd like to see some opportunity. I would also like to see people come to the meeting. So it's one time a month. Don't think it's too much to ask people if they're really committed to a topic or something. I also don't necessarily mind what Pine Island does, where they say, hey, come to the meeting, but we'll put it out a few days later. And that might be the reason they probably did that, is to stop some of those things that were happening at meetings from taking place. So I'm torn on this one.
I think something that would help too is Dr. Thompson's idea of moving public input. I think that's been hard, just to be on the other end of that, some of the meetings that we've had. like you, I absolutely would love to see community members here, but I don't think it's reasonable, and I think not recording doesn't encourage people to come. They have other priorities, so then they just miss it and aren't as informed.
Right, and I get that. I guess my point is making it a priority. I'd like to see people make it a priority and come. They can make it a priority to come to a sporting event, but it's their kids' academic. What, as a school district, what is the pinnacle of your students' time here with us? Graduation and education. And we don't make enough time to come to what really is the high, is 30,000 feet set in policy, and coming to a board meeting once a month, but they can come, we can fill the gym for a high school, anything, or a performance, but we can't get people to come and see this. We have to make it convenient in some way that turns out to be difficult to manage in the past. So that's where I'm stuck.
I have two schools of thought. One being the behavior shouldn't be changed, whether there's a camera here or not. We should always be respectful and kind and speak with professionalism. So I don't know that the behavior argument is one that we should put a lot of thought into, just because we are professionals and we should be acting that way no matter where we are. When we're at a board event or representing the board. I also think that I do feel that people, it would be nice to have them more present, but unfortunately, the way society is, the way parents are working multiple jobs, it's really not fair to say that they're not coming because of it's not a priority for them. It just might not be an option. But if we want them to be informed, and if we want the community to know what's going on and have their support when we need their support, I think having it available to them, whether it be how Pine Island does it or not, would be really beneficial.
I just wanted to make a comment about the camera and the behavior. I think it is as much the public comment and the grandstanding more than it is the communication around our board. I do believe, though, that conversation at times gets stifled, and I will say that it just feels sometimes like I really have to pause and make sure that I choose words very carefully that can't get misconstrued or twisted or used out of context when at the board table. But I am very concerned about the grandstanding that has been occurring and increasingly occurring.
I think, again, this discussion is more so, are we going to take responsibility for the recording or continue to let KMEM record for us?
I would just question if they're recording for us or for them.
I don't want to question any intention here. I just want
I'm
to
just
bring
saying.
back, I mean, you can have arguments against recording, but no matter what, there's been multiple community members who have asked us to do it. There's not one that has asked us not to do it. Previously, the arguments seemed a lot more personal. I understand the hesitation, Angie. Sometimes it is nerve-wracking thinking of the right words. It does put a little bit of, anxiety with thinking, God, I hope this comes out right. But I think the community understands that we're all humans too, and operating transparently with good intent. I think it's easy to forgive misspeaks and corrections in the board. I think it would show value to having informed community members, even when they can't be here, even when board members can't be present. I just haven't heard a good argument to why it wouldn't be a good idea for us to record.
If recording didn't exist, how else could we disseminate the information properly? Like if we didn't record them, how else could we get information out to community members that maybe don't have internet?
So we have other means of communication.
Yeah.
Right, however, those are limited, and I have been told because of spacing, pricing, it is not the same as watching the recording of the meeting. There's a lot of information that isn't added. It's just a gist of the situation. It's not the discussion added. It's not ideas and all of that volume. So I think in addition to recording does exist, it's valuable. So saying one or the other, I don't understand that argument.
An example of that might be the PLC presentations that we've had. Those aren't captured in what we put in the DCI, but as a middle school parent and a high school parent, I very much appreciated them coming and them explaining their process and how they're doing things and what they're doing to meet those parent needs. And yes, you go to conferences and you get information there, but you don't get the big picture like you do when you go just to those conferences for your child.
I think the important thing is that we're elected by the community. The community obviously is utilizing the recordings that are already being done. I think the responsible thing to do at this point would be to take it on ourselves. And then we can control what we record, what we don't. MSBA said that they would recommend not recording like interviews. I 1000% agree with them. I don't think that would be fair to the candidates that come after the first round. I think it would be to our advantage at this point.
Again, I've said it a number of times, I'm torn on this one. I think Angie pointed out, I don't think we control it, whether it gets recorded or not. Because even if we choose to record these and say, hey, we're gonna record our meeting, it doesn't mean that somebody isn't gonna come in and record those. Nobody can, right now, anybody can come in and record those, so we don't control that. What we do is we take on a responsibility to record it, and if we don't record it, then or something happens and that recording doesn't get out there, then it's our responsibility. Or if we, or if we don't record it properly, or I listened to one and there was no sound. Oh yeah, I can, the board didn't turn sound on for that. That's the things we've been accused of in the past, right? So, oh, you don't turn your mic on intentionally when you forget to turn your mic on, that kind of stuff.
I still think we should attempt it. I understand your concerns with that and the fear of criticism from community members, but I think if we're attempting it in good faith, it still shows progress. It still shows the value of transparency and having informed community members.
Thank you. Other thoughts? Mark, Brandon? I don't think we've heard from either of you yet.
Regarding the transparency argument and stuff, the board has never been not transparent. The board doesn't have anything to hide. The board, everything is, public information. Anybody can sit here and view this public, this is a meeting. This isn't a public meeting, ultimately this is a meeting in public. And really, yeah, if there isn't anything that the board is, essentially not transparent about, and there's always information that can be acquired when sought to, if it isn't actually being physically talked about or discussed here at the board table as well. So, it's not due to a lack of transparency. It's not.
No, I think it's an effort and transparency to provide this information in multiple ways, though. Having even our staff be able to view this, not right after a long day's work and come sit here for 4 to 5 hours some nights to be informed is useful. It's useful to us. It's useful to the community. It does increase transparency to allow that discussion to be available.
I guess my feeling is I'm taking the responsibility of recording it. We do have control over the audio. My biggest concern is that, Mr. Christensen does a fine job, but the equipment that he's using the meetings I watched on YouTube, the audio isn't real clear on what people are saying. And I think that just opens it up to misinterpretations also. So I guess if we do have control over it, I'd like to see it done right, where the audio is picked up right off the microphones. And I guess I would be in favor of it.
Thank you. Okay, so let's just play that out a little bit. Let's say that we move forward with this. We would have to come up with a system to do that with. I think something that picks up. The ones I listened to, they did pick it up off the microphone, or they picked it up somewhere close. And then we'd have to also make a decision if it's streamed live or if it's provided as a service for people who actually want to just be informed, right?
I completely agree that we would need to decide if it's live or if it's recorded. I think that the logistics of it, and as far as equipment goes, I think that's something that we give to the experts, to the IT, and ask them for their recommendation, as they're the ones who are going to understand that best.
So then one other thing I would ask is, so we're in the, so we have a majority of the HVL soups who don't have it. We're about to hire a superintendent. We wait till we get the feedback from our superintendent before we make a decision on this. Because there's a majority that do not do it.
This is a board decision and not a superintendent decision.
I
So I
also,
think that it would be up to the board regardless if the superintendent, no offense to you, Dr. Thompson, was in favor of it or not.
I also think that by the time the next person starts, it's gonna be midway through the year. I think it would prolong it too far. We'd be halfway through the year. I think it would be a decision we'd have to make.
Permission to speak for like 10 seconds. On the board vote. Sorry, we just can't write it.
Any other comments or thoughts?
I think most of my concern comes around the grants that's been going on during the video and some of the ways in which the board's been approached after the board meeting. And so looking at this, I don't know that I'm in favor of live in any capacity.
What do you think about the change that we're having with public input though? I don't think that would be recorded.
No, I won't be, because I want to be part of the.
Right.
the meeting.
So that kind of solves that problem. I agree with you.
So a quick question. What is the differentiator between it being live and it being recorded like Pine Island does, where they provide it for them a couple days later and people can watch it at their convenience?
Could it be the day after?
It can be anything we want, right?
Yeah. I think live, I would be most in favor of, but we could do a delayed recording as long as it was the next business day. I don't think a delayed recording should come 3, 4, 5 days later. I think it should be within the vicinity as close as possible to the actual meeting.
Any other thoughts? Okay, then I will make a motion. Do we make a motion here? Let's see, how can I make this? I will make a motion that struggle with this because we need time. We would need time for somebody even to come up with, for IT to come up with a plan to do this. So thoughts about how we do that, if we do that?
Do we make the motion that we will record the meetings and have them available 24 to 48 hours after the meeting with the goal of beginning these recordings at the meetings starting February 5th? And, that's a goal, and that way if we are unable to come up with the necessary and appropriate equipment, we will, or we could say at the soonest meeting that we can have the appropriate equipment and procedures in place. Something along those lines, so that we are doing it, we are moving forward with it, but we do want to make sure that we're doing it correctly.
Thank you. So before I take that motion, because I'm going to look for you for motion then, Dr. Thompson, any thoughts from MSBA or from your perspective on the superintendent search, how any of this can affect that?
I would think too, that it would not be appropriate to interview or record the interviews, because then the next people the next day would have that information. So I think that, two things. One thing is that, I would like to talk to the IT department just to see what is the possibilities and what they think would be the best, and could they help supply some students or personnel to do this. Then we'd have to order the equipment on top of it, and some of those kind of things. We have to talk to Bob about, this is not in the budget at the present time, so we'd have to look at those kind of things and get the IT info. I certainly would like to talk to Lindsay and see what her thoughts are on this and see what might be appropriate. My recommendation would be to probably start it in the first meeting in March. That should get us enough time to get things figured out and decide if that's what we're gonna do it. So we maybe look to bring this up maybe in March, once we have the information that we need to have to see if it's, number one, possible, how much it's gonna cost, and some of those kind of things. So that's just my thought. I would like to talk to the IT department and let them know that this is, the board wants to move forward possibly with this. What are the intricate details that we need to discuss with the IT department to get this happening? The other thing too is that, would we have it in both locations? We have board meetings in both locations. Would we want a fixed, recorder or whatever, or do we need to have the one that's more mobile, or do we need two? One for each one of our locations that we have our board meetings at. So all those kinds of things, I think it'd be important to discuss with IT to see what ideas that they might have for it.
Could this be tabled until we had that information?
That would be after the interviews. Does anybody have a concern about not making a commitment at this point?
I do have a concern, because I do feel strongly that the interview should not be recorded, or not live streamed or recorded. Would the motion then be to pursue, and, as fast as we can get that information back, then we would vote on it, or then we could put it into practice? So it'd be a motion to look into.
Proceed with the intent to record.
I mean, I think the interviews were a concern with MSBA's, but I think interview training was also a concern. So that way we could have an open discussion about interview questions and things like that on how we want the interview structured. So nobody would have kind of an inside look into that before that process even took place. So there's a handful of meetings that recording would not hurt.
Right, so like if we said we would start recording in March.
Whether it was decided to record or not record, starting at this point or later and stuff doesn't, and say we decided to record, but not record during, the very crucial times of hiring a superintendent, that doesn't give us any control or say of whether individuals want to come in and film during that time. So if individuals are saying that, well, if the board records, then we won't record, during that time. But that doesn't give any control over whether we say, well, we're not gonna record during that time, but then they're gonna come in anyway and record. So
And I wonder if,
it's all about doing the right thing.
yep, if we have those conversations with the parties interested in recording as to the why, the reasoning behind, because sometimes it's easier when you know the why, and then, we can only do what we can do, but I think it would be good faith to maybe some of those groups, knowing that, yes, they are going to be, taking over this and doing this, and so that we can meet their request of not recording during that time. We're not going to tell them they can't, because they absolutely can, but could be a request, and maybe they would be more amenable to that request if we are making an effort to record our meetings.
I agree. I've had multiple discussions with community members who are awaiting us to make a decision on this, who don't understand why we haven't taken responsibility for this yet. And truthfully, I don't understand it either. Again, at this point, it's not whether or not we're going to be recorded, it's who's going to be doing the recording.
So I'd like to maybe ask if the board would direct administration. I think it's appropriate for us to understand the staff resources it's going to take, the financial commitment it's going to take, and if we're going to do it, then we need to do it right. And so there's cost and things that are associated with timelines, so that we aren't making decisions for things that we can't hold up to.
I have a hunch that with our amazing Performance Arts Center and all of the work that's been done there, that we likely already have a lot of that technology in-house. And so I think that that will probably not be a barrier or an issue. I think it will be more likely the logistics of how we do it and who does it.
Probably, yeah, and the corresponding costs, whatever that is.
I guess I'm on board with Angie. I would like to see the feasibility, in worst case, best case, the next scenario on what to set up a system like that would be. My recommendation would be to direct the superintendent to look into that with the IT and as far as come up with a budget for it too.
A budget and a plan, how they would do that.
Correct.
For the March 4th meeting? You said you needed till March?
I don't know exactly. I don't know exactly how long, but I'm just thinking that I'm gonna be gone for a period of time, so I won't be here to do some things. So I can talk to Lindsay, I'm gonna see her tomorrow, and we can talk and maybe get the ball rolling on that. Might be earlier, but I was just trying to think how long things might happen, how long it might take to get the ball rolling.
With that being their field too, I would expect that information by February. They're well-versed in everything it would take to make that accessible.
We'll probably do that.
So what do we have for meetings in February? February 26th,
The 5th is now the regular school board meeting.
February 5th, okay? February 5th, doable?
I think so.
Okay. All right, so do we need well, we don't have a motion on the table. Just a minute, but this is an action item. So do we have to table this with the?
Can't table it. Anything that gets tabled has to be resolved before the end of the meeting.
Okay, but we haven't taken a motion on it yet. Is
And the
the,
motion being to direct the superintendent to meet with the IT committee to come up with a recommendation.
a budget and a plan and a recommendation, budget plan recommendation?
I make that motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this?
Can you repeat what the motion is, just to make sure that I'm clear?
I move to direct the superintendent to seek out a recommendation, a plan, and a budget for future recordings of school board meetings.
So the motion and the second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of that motion state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, thank you, everyone. With that, we are on to 6.1.8 is closing the public meeting to discuss strategies for labor negotiations. So we will be closing the meeting. We will be opening it back up shortly, after that and it'll be very short because there's really nothing left on the agenda, but this is the last thing on the agenda. So we'll be closing the meeting. Okay. So we are